Oh, man, come on! I can't play with us!
As if the last 24 hours wasn't enough to indicate that this NFL's offseason has been absolutely insane, we just got some breaking news that another starting quarterback and former Pro Bowl QB has officially been traded. But before we get to the content, make sure you subscribe and turn on our notifications to not only get the latest and greatest NFL news the moment it comes out, but also to enter for a chance to win $500. We're also doing a $500 giveaway to a follower of ours on Instagram, and we also put out TikToks and shorts of the news on my TikTok at Microphone NFL. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Carson Wentz has had a very up and down year, and a lot of people won't realize this if you just look at his Pro Football Reference and his stats, because if you look at his statistics, he looks like a pretty good QB. I mean, if you just look at his statistics, the man has had 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions and threw for 3,500 passing yards and a 62% completion percentage. The issue was not the statistics that Carson Wentz puts up, it's rather whether Carson Wentz has the ability to legitimately lead a team to a Super Bowl, or even be a game manager and have his team go to the Super Bowl as a result of being a game manager. And when you look at the Indianapolis Colts, they had everything. They had a great offensive line, they had a MVP candidate at the running back position in Jonathan Taylor. They didn't have the greatest wide receivers, but come on, Michael Pittman Jr. isn't that bad of a player, and their defense was absolutely loaded. In addition to this, Carson Wentz had Frank Reich, who a lot of people claimed was the reason why he had a near MVP season in the 2018 NFL season before he got injured. And ultimately, we thought that the union of the Indianapolis Colts bringing in Carson Wentz would be enough to get them out of quarterback purgatory. Unfortunately, it seems like the revolving door is going to continue after an offseason where Jim Irsay and Frank Reich would not commit to Carson Wentz during the exit interviews. Bear in mind, when Frank Reich was asked whether or not he wanted Philip Rivers back as his QB, he said straight up in that press conference at the end of the season that he wants Philip Rivers to come back. In this instance, he didn't say the same thing about Carson Wentz. He said that we're going to have to evaluate things with Carson and make a decision that makes the most sense for everybody. Well, it seems like they have officially come to a decision, because according to Adam Schefter, taking to the internet for the second day in a row to absolutely melt social media, the Indianapolis Colts are trading quarterback Carson Wentz to the Washington Commies for a package of packs that is thought to include 2 third-round picks, sources tell ESPN. Now, you might be thinking,
wait, that's it?
But you also have to bear in mind that Washington is going to take on Carson Wentz and his full contract in its entirety, meaning Washington is going to be paying the full $28 million to Carson Wentz this year, which includes a $5 million roster bonus next week. From now on, it's Commander Carson. This is funny because there was another report that stated that the Washington Commanders were taking swings on QBs. I mean, they had a remarkable offer reportedly for Russell Wilson. They were taking such crazy swings that they even called the Kansas City Chiefs about Patrick Mahomes. Apparently, the reason why Russell Wilson didn't get traded to the Commanders was because the Seattle Seahawks didn't want to trade Russell Wilson to the same conference. Now, for being 100% honest, there's a lot to dive into here. The Indianapolis Colts clearly were not happy with Carson Wentz's contribution. They didn't feel like he was necessarily the player that they needed to launch them into Super Bowl contention. The Indianapolis Colts have also had a significant amount of cap space ever since Andrew Luck was still on the team, which is why, in my opinion, they're one of the biggest tragedies in the NFL. If Andrew Luck didn't get injured so much and his career wasn't mismanaged to the level that it was mismanaged, then I do believe that the Indianapolis Colts would have had a Super Bowl by now. And you could hate me for that, but I truly believe that. As a result of this trade, the Indianapolis Colts now have $70 million in cap space, and they still have a pretty good team. The frustrating part about this is, over the past 5 years, this team has been the epitome of quarterback purgatory. It's absolutely remarkable. I mean, from Jacoby Brissett to Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to who's going to succeed Carson Wentz next? Well, we're going to get to that in a second because we need to discuss why the Washington Commanders went for this. Honestly, I'm going to tell it to you straight. I hate this trade for the Washington Commanders. I feel like this was the offseason where you could potentially have the ability to trade for a huge quarterback. And the fact that they even called up these Kansas City Chiefs about Patrick Mahomes and took a huge swing on Russell Wilson and then ended up settling on Carson Wentz. Yes, I understand you're only giving up a bunch of third-round picks for him, but this isn't a guy that is going to get you to a Super Bowl. This is a man that loves to play hero ball, that could throw you out of games, unfortunately. And maybe you're thinking that you're buying low on this individual because after all, the Indianapolis Colts overpaid to get him on their team last year. But this isn't a potential Super Bowl winning move. This isn't the equivalent of the LA Rams trading for Matthew Stafford. And if you really wanted to take a swing, like an absolute swing, then you offer first round picks for Deshaun Watson, which you could have gotten Deshaun Watson. Same division as the Indianapolis Colts. If Watson had to pick between the Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Seattle Seahawks, I'm pretty sure Watson would have chose the Washington Commanders. Yes, of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a potential destination as well. And who knows, maybe they offer some draft picks to acquire Deshaun Watson. We have a very big video on Watson coming out on Friday because that's when his case is going to be altered. My point is, championships aren't built on the back of safe moves like this. Championships are built by taking huge swings. Empires are built by taking huge swings. You need to take risks that some people might look at you and say, okay, I don't know about this one. This is a little bold. And maybe it pans out and maybe it does not. And this is not that move. Now, that's my take on the matter, but it's also important that you know the context of this trade because the way the Washington Commanders have been going about their quarterback search more recently, and this is according to Jordan Schultz, is that they have been taking a look at players that might have a lot of potential, but you don't have to overpay for them. Jordan Schultz's exact quote is, "The Commanders have taken a long look at Jameis Winston and continue to have interest in the former #1 overall pick. I'm told not to rule out a return to the Saints either for Winston, who's progressing off of a torn ACL. In a perfect world, Ron Rivera's Commanders would love to find a free agent QB at a discount. Apparently, Jameis Winston fills that role perfectly." So in my head, what this means is the Washington Commanders either wanted a player like Jameis Winston or a Mitchell Trubisky or I guess a Carson Wentz. And believe it or not, I think out of all those players, Carson Wentz was probably the worst option. Mainly because you already know what he is. He's reached his ceiling. I don't think he's going to get better than what he currently is. And there are specific things in his game that I just don't think he could fix. If he reunited with the man that was credited for his success and not even he could get what he needed out of Carson Wentz, what makes you think that you are? It just seems like another move that the Washington Commanders have just been making recently. I mean, they traded for Alex Smith a while ago when the Kansas City Chiefs were done with him, and I thought that was a good trade. Unfortunately, Alex Smith dealt with an absolutely scary injury, and we never got to see the potential of that trade, but there were just so many better game-managing QBs that you could have went with. You could have went with Mitchell Trubisky, who again was considered to be that low value but high potential type QB. You could have traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you really wanted to take a huge swing, you could have traded for Deshaun Watson. And unfortunately, they didn't want to wait for that. So I really think this was a horrible move for the Washington football team. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, because I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This is the most momentum that the Washington Commanders have had in a while. I think Ron Rivera was an absolutely culture shifting hire. I think the defense that's being built around Chase Young and that incredible front seven is scary. I think Terry McLaurin is an awesome wide receiver, and I think Antonio Gibson is pretty awesome, but I don't think Carson Wentz was it. I think there was another way that you could have significantly improved your team, and that's me being objective. Now, the Indianapolis Colts are rumored to be looking at players like Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't even think about Deshaun Watson. They're in the same exact division as one another, so that's not going to happen, unfortunately, as much as I would absolutely love to see that happen. Maybe they go with Mitchell Trubisky, or maybe they draft Malik Willis or one of the QBs that aren't really getting that much love in this year's NFL draft. Either way, it seems like it's going to be another year where the Indianapolis Colts are going to be in quarterback purgatory. Grade this trade for me in the comment section down below. It is exciting to see a trade happen, but I like seeing good moves being made. I like seeing trades where both teams clearly win. And in this instance, the Indianapolis Colts won because they get to move on from the Carson Wentz experiment, and they don't even need to pay him anymore, which is pretty remarkable because when they traded for him, the Philadelphia Eagles were still paying his contract, but the Washington Commanders could have done better in my opinion. Who knows? I've been wrong before. For all you know, Carson Wentz comes out and really has a chip on his shoulder from being back in the same division again, and I've been wrong before, but based off the information that's being presented to me now, this is my take on the matter. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.